Time's up, Admiral.
Here it comes.
Chevron 1, coded.
For my ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry hammer, and let's set the dogs of war.
Chevron 2 is coded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of your women.
It's all in the reflexes.
Paul also said you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi and all that killer stuff.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3 encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4 encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5 encoded.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6 encoded.
Not for while you can, monkey boy.
Great Scott.
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
You shall not pass!
I thought I'd die fighting side by side with an elf.
What about side by side with a friend?
A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.
Chevron 7 is locked.
No, I wasn't scrambling to adjust my microphone before the opening ended. Hail and howdy, everybody. Welcome to Saturday Night Drive-In, where I can cleanly get through an opening if I try, I swear. We got a classic today. Classic that Jed has already spoken to me about once before, but doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. My old man brain forgot, so we're doing it again. Welcome to the night where we do Conan the Barbarian. Jed, are you ready to tell us what is best in life?
Yes, I'm very much ready to tell you what is best in life, and I don't think the chat is ready for that. I don't think they're prepared.
Oh, wow. Well, I would trust what you have to say more than certain other people what they would say. So I feel a little more comfortable what you might think what best is life in. Well, I mean,
I appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, you haven't let me down like other people have. So. Like I wouldn't trust Dermy as far as I could throw him. No.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not a place where you want to put your trust. But I appreciate your trust, man. I know I'm young and naive, but I'm here.
How you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. This is a movie that we did discuss before years and years ago, but I don't remember our discussion. So it'll be like it's the first time. I remember the event happened, but I don't remember what I scored it. I don't remember what we said. I just remember getting ganged up on, and I think that's going to happen again.
Ganged up on? Oh, well, I mean, listen, I love this movie. I have my criticisms. Mm-hmm. I do have my criticisms, my legitimate criticisms. And it's just, it's a classic, but it's a flawed classic. I can say that. I can say that honestly. I don't even.
This was a different experience, though, for me. This might sound weird, but I think I enjoyed it more, but thought it was worse.
I don't think we were actually scoring it back then when we were doing that version. I don't think there were any scores.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was against the rules.
Yeah, there were no scores, but now there are scores. I know my score already, but anyway, hail howdy in the chat. We hope you guys are ready for this. I know. Listen, this is a chat, a fan favorite thing. Everybody always loves to talk this movie. It's quotable. It's great. It's a classic. And we hope you guys are ready for good. Hit those like buttons, subscribe to everybody's channels, and let's get on with the show. All right. So Conan the Barbarian, 1982, Arnold Schwarzenegger, James Earl Jones, Mako. So many great actors in this one, so many classic ones. And what we love about this movie is that it doesn't apologize for itself. That's one of the things I love about the movie. It gives no shits. There's titties, there's sex, there's ultra violence, there's sophistry. There's meta. This movie goes everywhere, and it has one of the most unique instances of the fact that I would say the soundtrack is the movie. You understand what I'm saying?
No, what are you trying to say?
There are long stretches in this movie where there's no dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And only the soundtrack, the score, tells you what's going on. So the soundtrack to me in this movie is as much a character as Conan or Valeria or Thulsa
Which isn't hard to do, so I will agree with you.
Yeah, but it's a character that you're watching the scene. It's not one of these movies where you can leave the room and just listen to it because the music's playing and the music is telling you the scene. It's showing you the scene. It's playing it out, all that kind of stuff. Especially that, like the final moments of the movie, like the final 5 to 10 minutes. It's all music, all score, all scenery. And here's how we're gonna do this. We're not gonna walk through the movie because everybody knows Conan the Barbarian. There's no point in going step by step. It's like, oh, here's this time how we feel. No, we're gonna go through characters, performances, and we'll jump around favorite moments, this kind of stuff. But what I want to start with this, I'm going to start with my most glaring negative. Okay, I'm going to get that out of the way. Conan's origin is wrong.
Is it?
Yes, Conan is battle-born. He's battle-born. That means his mother, the Sumerians were at war. She was on the battlefield and she was injured, and he was born on the battlefield and she died.
That's pretty badass.
That's Robert E. Howard's origin for Conan. The movie changes that. Now listen. Conan's mom in this movie, she's hot. I'm not going to take anything away from her. She's hot, but he's battle-born, and that defines who he is. He is this creature of savagery, born on a battlefield, born in blood. And that is one of my major criticisms of this, the fact that he isn't, they don't depict him that well. That's one of the things that I can say that the other one got right. The Momoa one got right. He's battle-born in that one. So he got that. That doesn't make that movie good, by the way. I like it for what it doesn't make it good. I like it for its cringiness and its corniness. And Momoa is a badass in it. But this one could have gotten. It wouldn't have lost some points for me if they had him be battle-born. But it is great opening with the father's speech about the riddle of steel and the myth of Crom and this and that.
Mm-hmm. So, it's good world building. I think the movie in general struggles with world building, especially with factions later on. But just the religious aspect, I think, is put up a lot, done very well. And the idea of steel, because I don't know when this is hypothetically supposed to take place, but we often forget in the modern day how influential the discovery or the discovery of the recipe to steel, because you don't actually, discover steel, but that discovery reshaped the world. It changed the age of mankind from the Iron Age, I believe it was, before the
bronze, iron, steel.
Yeah, that reshapes the entire planet. It is a very influential event in human history, so it would make sense why it's been mythified by different religions around the world and have explanations of divine sources for it because of how much it changed their lives. So I really like that aspect of world building. The opening of the film, I think, is one of its strongest parts. The shot of Conan as a child holding his mother's hand as her head falls into frame and then she just pulls off to the side. That shot's incredible, but it's also tied to one of my criticisms of the film is the film lingers a lot when it shouldn't. Like all the different angles after that shot of the kid just having his hand up, it's overplayed at that point. But that's just that first shot from the front, seeing her fall out of frame was great. They just did 7 different versions of it right after that, and it had diminishing values. And I think the film does that a lot, is lingering on these landscapes that aren't all that interesting, on these sets that are okay, and just overplaying their hand a lot. The subtlety of it. That's something that I'm sure George Lucas has talked about is when he was making the original Star Wars. In an interview on set, he said a lot of people, when they're making sci-fi, they try to make the setting the story, or like focus on it so much to say, hey, look what great work we did, that it brings the plot momentum to a halt, just to show off how good work they've done. And he said, no, the story should be able to stand on its own, and the setting aid the story, not replace the story. And I feel like there were definitely moments where the setting, whether or not that was the sets they built or the landscape, replaced the story. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
no, it does. No, it does. And the thing is, I understand what you're saying, because I do like the cinematography of the movie. I think it is well shot. The sense of the journey is portrayed very well throughout the whole thing when they're traveling with that, and the music plays a large role in the different parts of the journey. When Conan's a slave, when he's a warrior fighting for his life, learning, being taught things, being given privileges, it's a different tone. But then when he's free, it changes, and it's a lot lighter. When he meets Subutai, it's a lot lighter. And I won't mention this because I know we talked about it ages ago. Subutai, not actually an Asian actor. He's he's a Latino man.
That's fantastic.
They did some work on him. That's not an Asian dude.
We've talked about the music a lot, and so there's one thing about the music that I'm not a fan of. I think the music is epic. It definitely gets that high adventure theme, and I could listen to it on my own. Absolutely. It might have been a problem with the version I was watching this time and last time, because I remember this problem before. But there are moments where the music, distracting is not the right word, maybe overwhelming is the right word, where it doesn't feel like it fits and I can't hear what's going on. The best example of that I found is in the snake fight scene in the pit with the giant snake that he's fighting. I can't hear anything that Conan's doing. I can't hear his sword. I can't hear his grunt.
I think it's your copy, because my very old DVD sounds perfectly fine.
Okay. So it might be the version that Peacock has, because in pretty much all the fight scenes, I can't hear anything that's actually going on.
Oh,
so
really?
The music feels overwhelming.
It's
and so I can't get immersed in the film because I'm just hearing the sounds. Like, I want to know how this is going. I want to hear how it's going. So the music is just so overwhelming in so many scenes that I couldn't connect with it. And
I got this for like $10 at Costco a decade ago. It's got both movies, one on each side. And the audio quality is great. I can hear the combat. I can hear the noises. I hear everything. So I think that Peacock just gave you the middle finger.
They might have, because that hurt my enjoyment of the film a lot. It hurt my immersion. Because the fight scenes just didn't feel epic. Like, the music needs to work with the sound effects of the scene.
Yeah, see, to me, every fight scene was just perfect. See, one of the things about this movie I love is also with the story of it, everybody did their choreography training for this. There's documentary footage of Sandil Bergman and Arnold practicing training so that they knew what they were doing for this stuff. That's why I particularly do love Sandil Bergman's Valeria choreography, because you can see she put the time in. She's fit as hell. And the way Valeria fights, it's realistic. Now, listen, Hyboria, this Hyboria, the Age of Hyboria, it's a fantastical place that sort of exists somewhere between Europe and the Middle East, because this is the age after Atlantis sunk, but before other things happen. So it's an in-between age that is forgotten by time. So there's magic, there's mysticism, there's monsters, there's gods that we don't know about. I mean, set, we'll get when I talk about world building, because that's part of my criticism. Like, I have criticism of the world building because I know a lot about Hyboria, because I've read the books, I've played games, I've watched other incarnations.
Do you know the etymology of the term Hyboria?
No.
So I didn't know it was called that until you just said it. But so Hyperborea is the Greek promised land. That's kind of like it's a land to the north that is a paradise. Okay, and so it's like a tropical paradise that's in the distant north.
Well, Hyboria is actually a shit show. Hyboria is a shit show between all the kingdoms.
But it's also where gods walk among man type thing. So I can definitely see.
There are various.
Well, that's what I mean. Is the source is what I'm saying. Yeah. The Greek myth part.
But Hyboria is a fantastical place, and part of what I'm saying is that when it comes to the world building, I'll get back to that in a second. I do have my criticisms because this movie, even though I know they tried to keep it grounded, they didn't do justice to Hyboria and what it does. They just talk about the East, the West, the North, and this, that. They mention all the major kingdoms, but they don't actually get more into it. But I'll get back to a second. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, the sound, the combat. Like, when it comes to the combat and the choreography and the sound, everyone say Valeria looks fantastic because even though Hyboria is a fantastical place, she's not superpowered. She's a regular swordswoman. She's a thief. And she knows how to fight with them. Right before she dies, right before Valeria gets the snake arrow in her side, she is what? I hiccuped. Come on. I can't.
No. I wasn't laughing. I was remembering the snake arrows.
Oh. Right before she gets the snake arrow on the side, what delays her from catching up with everybody when she gets surrounded by those 4 dudes in the cavern, she stops. I love the moment where she stops. She's ready to fight and she stops, just like slaps her hand with her sword. And then her first move is to charge, but then dodge and run along the side of the wall to get behind the dude and cut him down. And I love that kind of proper thought put into how she would fight. She's not going to always charge you straight on. Especially if it's a one-on-one, we've seen Valeria will fight a guy one up, one down, use her agility and skill with the sword to get around his guard. But she's surrounded at that point. So she charges, uses the wall as leverage to get around one guy so that she now is behind 2 guys, and the guys that were behind her are now in front of her. And she proceeds to...
Yeah, she's using intelligence to make up for the odds against her.
The fact that she's not Conan, and who will just go, wong, and just cut through everything. So I love that the choreography in this movie does it all so well. And we'll talk about each fight scene. And if we're going to talk about my favorite moment, I have 2 favorite combat moments. My first one is that same point in time when they are in the orgy. And they sneak in there, and man, freaking cannibals, man. They're eating people. And what I love is when everything goes to shit, and after Thulsa has transformed and gotten away, and they're going to kill the princess, and the high priest and the other dude with the hammer, who is actually, we know this is a historical thing, watch every single Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, and that dude is in it, because that's his workout buddy back then. That was his workout buddy. He's in everything. He was in this, Running Man. He's in everything. That dude's in all of it. When he's fighting those 2 guys, and the high priest guy with the Fu Manchu goes, impossible. And Conan, when he's with the war panda, goes, ooh, it's like, oh shit, yeah, now it's on. Dun 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 dun. I love that moment because that's just a brutal fight where it's a realistic fight because it's not just going whoa whoa. It's clash clash duck, and the environment falls apart around them when the column falls. It's all over the place. It's incredible.
They're definitely dynamic fight scenes. Yeah. That's one thing I hate about modern filmmaking, because it's all on volumes or green screens and stuff, so they can't interact with the environment around them. So I always appreciate when a film thinks about where the fight is taking place, like you're saying with Valeria before she ran up along the wall here. Conan's using the cauldron at the set of the room. Things are breaking around him. Like, it definitely feels like they're there. And that shouldn't be something that we need to praise. But these days, it really makes a difference to know, all right, these people are actually here. The fight scene was designed around where they're at.
And they have to take it seriously because that pillar falls apart. That's a practical set. That's like your one shot.
Yeah, you've only got one take.
You got one shot to get that scene right, because I don't think they had another pillar sitting around to pull into that scene, because the whole scene is a practical set built up from the ground up. You can't just pull things in out. So it's fantastic that they took the time and to get it right, and it looks great. And then, of course, I do love the fight in the final battle in the graveyard. That's fantastic. Well choreographed, all little things, this and that, and the music interplaying. And I do so love it because this is symmetry for me, because I love good symmetry. Fulfillment of promises. When back at the beginning of the movie, when Valeria and Conan come together, she says, I would come back from the depths of hell to fight by your side. And now that's a stupid Conan moment right there, where he's just admiring the handiwork of the trap he's just staying way too long at that, and dude's coming in from the side, and he gets the drop on him a little bit, and he's gonna get him, but then Valeria comes back for that brief moment from the dead, from hell, wherever she was, in basically Valkyrie armor.
Mm-hmm.
And says, "You want to live forever?" Her go-to line, her thing, her slogan. And then Conan, even though he sees it, he's still so startled. He goes for his sword. It's like, what the hell? I'm gonna go for my sword, and it's fantastic. That I love that whole moment, because then Conan gets his revenge. He gets his father's sword back. And the symbolism of breaking his father's sword, where he understands that meant something, but it's something, at least as I interpret it, he has to now leave it behind. And of course, he'll take the broken sword with him to finish off Thulsa Doom, which is important. But I love everything about basically the third act. To me is the strongest part of the movie, where everything comes together and all happens.
I do agree that there is a thematic connection between him breaking his sword and the end of his arc, because as Thulsa Doom says, I think near the end of the film, it's like, who am I except your father? Without me, you'll be lost. Mm-hmm. Without your revenge to drive you into manhood, there's nothing left of you. Mm-hmm. And that would be a legitimate concern, because every time we've seen Conan go away from his revenge quest, when he's not being forced to as a slave or whatnot, he just kind of ambles and gets drunk and steals. Like he has no purpose when he's not on his revenge quest.
And that's part of my other criticism of this movie, because the movie does it's a good adaptation. It's the very first adaptation we ever got of Robert E. Howard's Conan Adventures. But this Conan is not Conan. He really isn't, because Conan, and I read one of the 3 compendium books that were a combination of adventures. I read the first one. I don't remember which one it is. I think it was actually Conan the Barbarian, and all the ones in there. And those stories and the later stories, I skimmed the other ones, and I've played other games, and I've seen other adaptations. What this story fails to do, it starts to do it. Like when Conan is out of his slave time, when he's freed, and he meets Subutai for the first time. That is a thing that Conan does. Conan, he goes out there. He's been a thief. He's been a pirate. He's been a warlord. He's done everything. And the problem with this movie is that it dives right into the thief aspect, and it kind of stays there. And I feel like, even though that's kind of the chart of the movie, be the thief, steal the princess, bring her back, I feel like always that was the wrong way to go. That's one of the reasons I do enjoy Momoa's Conan, because it's Conan the pirate, where he had those types of adventures, and he has his crew, and he has men. But one of the things Conan does, wherever he goes, he draws people to him. And that's one of the things I like about Destroyer, is that in Destroyer, he just kind of suddenly forms a party. People are drawn to him. And and that's the fun of it. And yeah, and Legatus is saying he's a wanderer, but he has these parts of his life where he is this thing. And I feel like this movie didn't start him off in the right era of that. Because he was a thief. Don't worry, he was a thief. One of the stories that I read where he stumbles into a chamber. I think he's not in Stygia. He's someplace else, but it is a Stygian occurrence where he is in this chamber, and there's a murder happens, and there's a suspect, this and that, and other dudes are there, and he's there with, and he's people think he's the murderer. The whole thing takes place in this one room. The short story takes place in this one room, and what happens is he has to convince everybody, yeah, I didn't kill this guy. I was a thief. I'm here to steal something. I didn't kill this guy. And eventually it breaks down that, oh, wait a minute, there's somebody else here. And it turns out there's a serpent of Set, like a demon hiding out in a corner. And when they all realize that, they just got to all back off and wait for it to leave, because they don't want nobody, not even Conan, wants to fight this thing. So he is a thief. It gets situations like that, but This is like happy-go-lucky Conan. And Conan is as the card says in the chat, he lives for the moment. He goes from one adventure to another, but he's never gleeful. he can be happy in the moment, but there's no as you sometimes see with Arnold's Conan in this one. In Destroyer, he's a miserable son of a bitch because of he pines for Valeria. But in this one, he's just kind of floating around. So I don't like the missing parts of what Conan's world is really like. And I wanted more of the world around him to be seen through those adventures, if that makes any sense whatsoever. I'm trying to I feel like I'm losing my point because I'm rambling on about the different things here. But
no, it makes sense. His character just it seems a little inconsistent, even in the film, without any knowledge of how he is in the books or the comics or anything like that. It feels like they struggle to find what Conan is supposed to be. This film, they got the look down, and it kind of seems like they were satisfied with that. And I don't get the sense that he lives in the moment. I get the sense that if he doesn't have a purpose driving him, he just kind of fades away. Like he's just doesn't know what to do with his life. He's just gonna almost let himself die if he doesn't have a reason to live.
And that's
not the sense that I've heard, like you're saying, from other Conan material. And I think the character work in this film is pretty rough. There's not any characters that I feel are fully realized. And even Conan falls into that. Arnold has the look down. The look is fantastic. In the fight scenes, the barbarism is there in a very visceral sort of way. But I can't tell you how Conan's going to react in one situation or another. I can't tell you what he thinks about besides revenge. And halfway through, he's just like, I'm in love with Valeria. Besides that, I don't get a sense of a whole lot about what he cares about. And it's just a lot of weak character work. And I think that's also a problem with the film. The overall plot, the word that I got out of it watching is just meandering. Like I got no plot inflection. I got no plot momentum. It was just kind of, we're here, we're doing this. And then epic fight scene. We're just, we'll find another fight scene sometimes, I guess.
Well, here's the thing, and it says a problem. And once more to remind everybody, I love this movie. I love it to death. I enjoy it every goddamn time, and I enjoy Destroyer too. But the problem is the world is not shaped properly. And here's my point in this. You hear of Aquilonia. You hear Stygia. You hear all the major names of this world. And yes, they end up in Zamora, but
it feels like this whole world is a wilderness because we don't really see a whole lot besides a tiny town with like 15 people. I don't get a sense of people of culture. We get a little bit with the Asian dude in
that's the East.
Spiritual, right? Yeah, well, we get a little bit of him and from the city where the snake hole is. But for the most,
you went to my point. You finish your point, but that you're going exactly where I want to go.
Okay, perfect. Well, I just mean the entire world feels empty and desolate. Like these are just rolling hills, and we've met everyone who lives in these worlds.
And like that's the problem.
Like something hidden out there.
They tell you about the world, but they don't show you the actual age of Hyboria. This world, these warring kingdoms, these plotting. Because point is, you mentioned the snake cult, the cultists of Set. Here's the thing: the cult of Set is based in Stygia. That's the Stygia worships Set. At least that's what my memory is reminding me. And Stygians they're like the boogeymen of the realm. They're like the bad guys. They're the evil empire. And everybody's always worried about what is Stygia going to do. And Legatus, I'll bring those here. I normally don't do this, but Legatus mentions it. Thulsa Doom, and I had forgotten this, so thank you for reminding me. Thulsa Doom, he's not a Conan antagonist. He's a Kull antagonist. Kull the Conqueror exists in this same world. So as does Red Sonja. Tathamon, a wizard from Stygia, is Conan's one of his primary antagonists. not Rathamon, who they put in the Conan the Adventure cartoon. That was another version. But Tathamon is Conan's one of his primary antagonists who he has to deal with over and over again. And the problem is when you're pulling together wrong aspects of it, it doesn't gel.
Mm-hmm.
And now James Earl Jones' performance is outstanding. James Earl Jones steals every scene he's in. He's only in it for like 15 minutes.
I had to laugh in some of his moments, like right after the mom is killed at the beginning, the way he looks over his shoulder and turns, or right before he kills her. It's just
not like that. It's in law, but
it was very dramatic. This film was very dramatic and cheesy.
Yeah, but it's good cheesy. It's good cheesy.
It's not cheese that works for me, but I recognize that it's not like bad cheesy. Yeah. Like it's just not my style.
So they got the right things here. Like when he goes to see the sorceress, in which he's effing and she turns into the demon, which I don't get that. I've never understood that part in my entire life.
I don't get what the point is. Like you could cut that out and not change the film at all. I mean, it's nice to see another naked lady, but
the price to pay was the sex, or her price. I don't. It's the whole thing is it's weird. It's weird.
And even that set is wild. Like there's a whole room through the fire.
It's the fireplace anyway. But she gives his prophecy. Conan will be king by his own hand, and way in the future, down the line, he leads the rebellion that conquers Aquilonia and becomes king of Aquilonia. And that's what everybody always said. We want old man Conan, who's king of
Arnold says he's willing to come back for Conan the King.
It's too late. It's too late. Not going to happen. It's done. That project fell through too many times in the past 6-7 years. It's not going to happen. Because there was a really good story, King Conan story in the book I read where he gets drugged and captured, and he has to fight as King Conan has to fight his way out of a dungeon with lizard men in it, and it's really cool. And again, he gets back and he's like, "All right, who drugged me? You're dead." Here's the thing about you understand: Conan is not an idiot. Conan is smart. He's intelligent. He's worldly. He's been everywhere. He speaks multiple languages. He understands. He's not just, to quote the show from Conan the Adventurer, big dumb barbarian. That's one of the faults of that show. He's not a big dumb barbarian. He is smart. He's intelligent. He's a genius fighter. He's savage when he wants to be, but tactical when he needs to be. And this movie only shows that a little bit. I mean, in the final battle, they show all the tactics, the setting up, the strategy, this and that. Then again, they were only fighting like 12 dudes, so I don't understand why they're so afraid. But seriously, Thulsa Doom's retinue is only like 12 or 15 dudes.
Yeah, the rest are just cultists, mostly women.
Who are not a threat. And that's part of the problem, again, with this world setting. Set is one of the big bad gods, the snake god, a gigantic freaking cobra. He is evil incarnate in this world, and his minions are destructive, and it's based in Stygia. It's not just a random cult that is popping up with towers all over the place. That's not how it worked.
We'll have to say his priest, I don't know what you'd call these cultists, but the cultist who kind of came on to Conan, I thought that dude was gay. I thought that's what they're going for.
Yes, he was. I mean, that's how Conan gets him off to the side. He's pretending, I'm going to spread my cheeks for you, and no, instead I'm going to kill you. Yeah,
and I love how Conan gets all like timid, like the lure him, and he's like, "Yeah, that'd be nice."
I'm shy. Oh, my son, it's okay. Don't be shy, gank.
This is a nice robe you have.
I know. Is it a priest robe? I mean, see, that's tactical Conan.
Yeah, that was very There's a lot of weird scenes like that in the film, like the first sex scene when he's a gladiator. That scene's just awkward to watch, but yeah, they're still really showing his intelligence and Conan being unintentionally funny in the gay scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the whole thing, as I said, he goes on adventures. He brings in allies. And one of the things about Conan is that in every part of the world, he has allies. And he can go there. And one of the things I do like in Destroyer is says, I need you. I'm yours. When he goes back to get Mako in that one. If Conan says, I need you, you are there. You follow him because he is he is the gravity of this world. Everything is drawn to him because he's so powerful. And Conan does have supernatural strength. He is way stronger than humanly possible. That's part of his mythology. And they do show it off in this, but it's a more practical means. But I know I've been criticizing how the world is built and it detracts from, but that this movie still manages to get you a Conan movie. That's why I sort of like Destroyer better, because that's more
plot of Destroyer is definitely sounder.
Destroyer is more like an adventure of Conan. It's more like a Conan adventure with crazy magic, some monsters, direct, simple villains, or maybe not simple villains, but clear delineation of who's doing what. None of this, not Thulsa Doom just hovering above everything and not really interacting. And they used Thulsa Doom as kind of the meta villain, where my thoughts are my weapon, my words are my weapon. I'm not a physical threat to you, and I'm gonna mess with your head. And while it was done well in a Conan movie,
you want a physical antagonist. They tried a little bit with his henchman that actually killed his dad, I think, or at least led to the dogs killing him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that guy wasn't developed enough to really care when he was defeated.
That's why when at some point we'll do Destroyer again, because I know we did that one too. That's why when you have when you have what's his character's name? Shit. Will Chamberlain's character in the movie, I can't remember. Bamonga. I suddenly forgot his name. Will Chamberlain. There's a development of a rivalry throughout that whole movie, and their fight is fantastic at the end. It's great. It's brutal. He bites him. It's bloody. It's nasty, and then he goes and fights a god. So that's Conan. That's why I like Destroyer better, because it feels more like a Conan movie. And he has a party, he has a gang, which is what Conan does. He always has a crew around him. Yes, he does solo stuff, but I like when Conan has his allies with him. And even though Subutai is fine, he doesn't get more than what he is. Valeria, she's the plot point. Yeah, Valeria does exist as a character, but once again, Conan's not pining for Valeria his entire life. Conan has many loves in his adventures. I mean, at one point when he was Pirate Conan, he had a fight with this pirate queen, and he beat her, and she became part of his crew. I think that's how it went. I don't remember exactly how it went, but so they raided the rivers for like a decade together. I mean, Conan is not obsessed with just like one woman. He has many loves, and he will love a woman. He will, without a doubt, he will.
Like the way you said that.
Love a woman. I don't want to be too graphic here. We're a PG show.
Are we?
Since when? Yeah, since when? But see, I love Conan. I love this stuff. It's a lot of fun. It's great. And I always want this movie to give me more, and it doesn't. That's my biggest problem. That's why my score is going to be what it is in the end for my criticism, and always how I love it. But even though I love the theme, dun 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 dun, you know what I always do? I always go to the version from Destroyer, dun 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 dun. I love that version because it's got the triumphant crescendo, and I love it. But this one just kind of goes then into gritty battle. So there's so much goods to this stuff.
It's definitely an enjoyable film. I will say I enjoyed it more this time. The music aspect that was wrong with my copy, I guess, hurt my enjoyment quite a bit. But the idea that this film, I think it's all surface level. There's a lot of spectacle and not a whole lot of substance to it. And I think that's what we're both asking for in our wishes is like, like we're more world building, more character development, more plot. That's all substance. But I think it does its spectacle very well. The atmosphere is very barbarian-like. I have never really come across anything that has a barbarian atmosphere. And this film just nails it from the voiceover. I appreciate when a film doesn't use a voiceover as a throwaway feature. Like 90% of movies, it feels like from the 80s and 90s, we're like, oh yeah, we're starting with a minute of voiceover that we don't need, and then we'll never come back to it, or if we do, it's going to be for 2 seconds at the end. No, this film was dedicated to its method of telling the story with the epic voiceover in a
That's Mako, dude.
accented way. The voiceover is fantastic. It definitely aids to the epicness of this. Makes it feel like a high fantasy, as if some god is looking down, or some person in the distant future is telling the legend of Conan. And it just brings scale to it. So like stuff like that with the atmosphere, the way people talk, and then of course the iconic "What is best in life" scene. Just moments like that. I think the atmosphere is really good. The substance just isn't there. I don't know how that makes sense, but atmosphere.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense.
There's a lot of atmosphere, but no world building.
Well, here's the thing. You mentioned the voiceover. Mako was a freaking icon. That dude was an icon for decades in everything he did. Everything he was in was iconic, and this was just fantastic. And I love him in the second one more because he's actually doing wizard shit in the second movie, and it's great. And that's one of the things that is missing. There is magic in Hyboria, but all they show you in this one, and maybe there was limitations to the special effects, what they were allowed to do. You just see tidbits, like Thulsa Dune turning into a snake.
It just doesn't feel impactful.
Yeah.
Like him turning into a snake. Yeah. When you watch that, you think, oh my God, there's going to be an epic finale when he fights the snake version. And there's just not a whole lot of payoff. The demon lady, just randomly there's a demon lady and then she's gone. Or I appreciate magic world building a lot. That's why I'm a big fan of the Aragon series. It has one of the most well thought out magic systems I've ever come across. The rules are so detailed. But in this one, they paint Conan and then some spirits come to take him away and then he's back to life. Like
they didn't do enough of a good job of explaining how he's being resurrected.
It just felt like in that moment, and then when Valeria came back at the end because the afterlife's not explained. Rachel and I, when we were watching it, straight up said it in both of those moments. Well, that might as well happen. Like we don't know why anything is happening in the film when it comes to the magical elements because it's so underdeveloped.
And in other Conan in Conan literature and other stuff, the magic is very well defined. In that stuff, it's about summoning and worshiping and dark arts, and there's stuff involved, and it's done much better in other ways. And because in this one, you want more. That I think that's one of the biggest crimes of this movie. As good as it is for me, as much as I enjoyed, and my score is going to reflect well. I may be being very critical, but I'm critical because I love it. Okay, I'm critical because I love it. I always want more. I want it to give me more. I want more of the world that I know of. I want more of the abilities. I want more of the magic of this, the everything that goes into being Conan. And I just don't. I never get enough of it. I get it in Destroyer. I get everything I want in Destroyer. Cheesy as it is, I get it. And this one, this is the more grounded one. And even though Mako's opening, this is a time of high adventure. Destroyer really is the high adventure movie. There really isn't high adventure in this one.
Destroyer, you could feel like this was another realm, somewhere that you couldn't visit. But in the Barbarian, all these places look like, this could legitimately just be somewhere that I could go visit. Destroyer, everywhere you go felt larger than life from what I remember.
And and there's magic, there's monsters, there's trickery, there's the story actually works better because it feels like a Conan story. As Legata said in the chat a little while ago, this movie's an amalgamation of a lot of different aspects of Conan adventures. So that's why it feels a
little disjointed.
Yeah, good word, perfect word for that, disjointed. And it's still a great movie. I love it. I love the action. Fun. I love the performances. I love the thematic nature of it. I love the dark and grisly nature of it, but I don't get the high adventure, which is where it fails for me, as opposed to Destroyer, where I get that high adventure. I get that feeling of this is Hyboria. This is the shit that's going on. And Conan is on these adventures, and he's gonna go off and do something else. And they should have done more of these movies. They should have done like 4 or 5 in total. Because I have a feeling they would have just kept getting better and better. And you know, we agree to disagree. That's why we all have our tastes. It's okay. You can like one higher than the other. Some people like the grounded, gritty nature of Barbarian, where it's less dialogue, more scenery, music transferring back and forth, as opposed to the dialogue heavy cheesiness of Destroyer. But to me, that makes it feel more like a high adventure to me. So
I do have something to say that I thought of while watching the film that might hurt you a little bit, but I gotta say it anyway.
Right.
Is thanks to the instruction of Conan the Barbarian, the acolyte knew that stone does in fact burn.
Why?
I mean, the tower that he burns at the end when he does the spinning with the basin and throws it up against the stone, nothing happens. They cut away, they cut back, and the stone's on fire.
You can't explain it. You can't explain it, but it's a great scene because you have that moment where it's the culmination. Conan's getting his race, and this is one of the things I do love about these types of movies. The movie doesn't shame the character for wanting revenge. You can understand this in modern day fantasy, science fiction, or any sort of action fiction storytelling. It's always the theme: revenge doesn't sate you. You get nothing from revenge. I get this in Western. I get this in anime. It's all over the place. Where the characters are always being told, "Oh, don't go for your revenge. You're not going to find anything from it." No. I think Conan found his vengeance. I think he found something from cutting Thulsa Doom's head off.
The modern storytelling is just so contradictory, because I think the best example of this is Last of Us Part 2. They're like, violence and revenge is bad, don't do it. And then you spend the whole movie, especially as Abby, just murdering people by the hundreds. And it like gratuitous violence over the top. It's like, if you want to have that message, you've got to have the characters evolve as they come to understand that message.
Yeah. Don't be ashamed of a revenge story. Don't be ashamed of a character getting satisfaction from, in an action movie like this, slaughtering the people that killed his family and his people. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Revenge can serve a higher purpose than just revenge. I mean, in this film, he's an evil man that Conan's going after who will hurt other people. Like, there's moral revenge in a lot of these classic stories when it comes to, yes, I'm avenging myself, but also preventing this from happening from anybody else. There's altruism, a level of altruism to a classic revenge story. And when you lose that altruism is when you become a villain in a lot of stories, because a lot of villains are motivated by revenge as well in all sorts of media. And it all really depends on the target and just the mentality of it there. But yeah, revenge in and of itself can be moral or immoral in a lot of these stories. And I like that complicated approach in some storytellings. Have options.
Yeah. And it
show
works.
Different things.
And it works. And William, Valeria would have been great in the second one. I thought it'd been great, but of course she's dead. Can't come back. But listen, Grace Jones is a poor substitute for Sandel Bergman in the second one, in my opinion. Poor substitute. But it's still it's a fantastic scene where he gets his revenge. And James Earl Jones's final monologue there, "Who am I? And I am your father." When he said that, it's 1982. So we've already had Empire. So when he says that, I just go, I can't help it, because Vader's already said the line, so I love it. I am your father. It's like, yes, you are. But it's a culmination, and the way he kills him using his father's sword, because it's broken, it's not big enough, but he does a double V chop to get at the neck, not just a single slice, which we've seen Conan do. It's a grisly kill.
One of the most graphic in the film.
Yeah, because then Jimmy has to do a little play acting with the blood splurting out of his body, going, "Ah!" It works. I love it, and it's satisfying. But then that's like the last dialogue of the movie. James Earl Jones has the final dialogue of the entire movie, except for Mako. Mako does a voiceover.
Yeah, the closing voiceover. Yeah.
But actual character interaction, that's it. And the last, I guess, 10 minutes is he throws the head. And remember, this was their essential living god to them. Not Set, but Set's representative on Earth. and he's dead. I mean, the rumors had been he'd been alive for 1,000 years. He even says, "I've been with you for 1,000 years," and there he's dead, and that breaks the fantasy, breaks the dream. And then just watching them all leave, throwing their torches into the pool, and the music is haunting. And then some time has passed, and the princess comes down, and Conan's just sitting there, pensive and in thought, and contemplating. I believe, because we don't know, we're not in his head. I've gotten my vengeance. Now what? I've lost the woman I loved. I'm gonna leave my I guess I'm gonna move on from my current friends that I have. What's my person? But I am gonna take the princess home and get my reward, because he does the whole discus toss, the twirling toss of the flame, and it bursts. And I have to think that it's magic. It's magic. It's not bullshit like Acolyte. There's got to be something involved there. I'm gonna go with it. It's very strange how quickly it lights on fire, though. That is happens very quickly. But then that whole thing is on fire, and then I love the imagery of the princess is kind of been she's a character, but she's a representation of someone who fully drank the Kool-Aid. But then when reality came crashing down and Thulsa Doom tries to kill her in order to protect himself and get away, that's the kind of proper turnaround one should have when faced with reality. You don't retreat. It's like, okay, wow. And she's on Conan's side. And the only reason now, again, I'm watching this and I have actual Conan in my mind. Real Conan, if without the now mourning Valeria, man, she would have gotten bent over. She would have been
in the burning tower, just go at it.
Not there, but that would have happened because she would have been very willing. Because that's how the Adventures of Conan works. They're always willing. When he rescues them, they're willing, and it happens, and it's glorious. But he extends his hand to her because she is lost, because she's bowing to him, the king.
Yeah, she's seeking a new god.
But when he reaches out to her, it's not as a god. It just says, "Listen, I'm gonna take you home. I'm gonna take you home. Don't worship me. Don't do this. Let's go home." And he gets his word, and then he'll go on his other adventures. But it's that final scene is, to me, masterfully done, because it gets all the points across without dialogue. It's show don't tell at its best, and I love show don't tell. It always works so well. Okay. All right. Well, we're coming up on the hour, and without a third person to throw different perspectives in, we kind of run out of room to go, because we could go on and on discussing scenes, but we like to we don't want to drag it out if we don't have to. So, Jay, you have anything else you want to dive into on this?
Not anything specific, just general thoughts. Yeah, a lot of spectacle, not a whole lot of substance. And I will freely admit this is not a type of movie that appeals to me. The 80s cheese just doesn't work for me. I can enjoy it and respect it.
I've tried so many times, and all I get is, "Why did you do this to me?" That's what I get.
Maybe it's a matter that I didn't grow up with it. I don't have the nostalgia, or I don't know what it is. But yeah, cheese, for the most part, doesn't work for me. I don't know why Doctor Who cheese works for me. It doesn't make sense. But yeah, it's just not a film for me, but I can respect it. And I totally understand why people love it and why it's a classic. I totally understand.
I think you'd like the books. I think you would, because it's Witcher-esque in terms of its grittiness, and it's just right there. And they're short. They're just little short stories. It's not one grand epic, and they're all out of order too. That's the point. You're not following him in a chronological order. All the stories jump back and forth to different points in Conan's life, but they're really good. Robert E. Howard, the tragedy that he was brilliant at what he created, and it's just such a shame that he ended himself so soon, when he could have given more and more. And people down the line, like Robert Jordan, many people took the reins and wrote many Conan stories, but those original Robert E. Howard stories are fantastic. They're great. And I feel like today's show was like a pseudo nerdgasm in a way, because there was a lot of talking about the source material more than the movie. But that's just the way it goes. I'm not going to stop it. It's the way it happened. Anyway, as for myself, yeah, I do love this movie. I think on this particular discussion, because this is what was prevalent in my mind, I was highly critical because I love it so much. It's because I enjoy this world. I've enjoyed all my different iterations. I've gone through it. And I always want this movie to give me more. And it gives me some, but then it stops short of giving me everything I want. And then Destroyer gives me the rest of it in classic cheesy fashion that I love so much. All right, so it is my week. I will score it first if I had the page up properly. As I've said, I pretty much said I love it. The action is great. The soundtrack is freaking epic. The performances are solid. To me, the standouts are, of course, not so much in the movie itself, but his presence, Mako's presence as Akiro. James Earl Jones chewing scenery every time. Arnold does fine. This is one of his first major things that he did at this point. This is what kind of got him started. He didn't have his. This wasn't Hercules in New York where they dubbed him because his accent was so thick the first time out. He could actually deliver the lines and deliver a good performance. It's fun all the way around. The choreography is damn near perfect. It's not over the top. It's realistic and fun. Proper gore, proper atmosphere. The only drawbacks are it's not the Hyboria I know through reading books and playing games and watching other stuff. It doesn't do proper service, as I think we've tried to express in today's discussion. It gets you there to get you to Conan, but it doesn't give you full Conan. And I know it's his beginning in this thing, but they couldn't more. Like, you never hear him say, you don't get Conan's absolute hatred of wizards in this. He has a hatred of wizards. And you don't get that. But what we do get is the Atlantean sword. The birth of the Atlantean sword. That thing is one of the most iconic swords in science fiction, fantasy, cinema history. Everybody loves that sword. It's great. It's fantastic. So I'm going to give it a nice, solid 8.5 out of 10 because it is a classic. It is great. It even though I've been highly critical, I'm always satisfied when I'm done watching. I always have a good time. I love it. And I wouldn't own it if I didn't love it. That's kind of the thing. Obviously, I love it. I own it. All right, Jed, what you got?
Well, I think a lot of people are going to expect where my score is going to be at. And the thing that I always try to clarify is objectivity versus subjectivity. I enjoyed this film higher than I'm going to score it. And I think to get higher scores, closer to 9s and 8s and whatnot, there has to be a union between spectacle and substance. And this film, I think, does really well with its spectacle, but the lack of substance really diminishes the score. So it's that combination of factors that I think will reflect in this lower score that some people might be surprised by. This film is definitely enjoyable. I think everyone should watch it because there are great moments from it. It's just not, it doesn't have any substance. The character work's not there. The plot is meandering, but it's a whole hell of a lot of fun. So it still deserves praise and to be talked about and watched. And I understand why people love it, but I have to give this one a 5.5 out of 10.
It's a Jed score. It's a Jed score. It's okay. You are the objectivity to my subjectivity, and that's why we love you. Okay, so there you go. There it is, guys. Thank you, everybody. Now, reminder, no show next weekend because it's MegaCon. Jed's on MegaCon duty, and I'm not going to do the show by myself. What's the point? The chat is angry at you, as always.
I knew this was going to happen. That's why I tried to add that caveat. If you get a good score, you need both substance and spectacle.
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, so no show next weekend. So what we're going to do is this. If you check the pinned chat in my chat, we are still doing chat choice. It's the first quarter of 2025. Every quarter, you guys get to choose and then vote on a movie for us to watch. We're going to extend it for another 2 weeks until after MegaCon. So you have another essentially week. Well, I'm going to extend a week. I'm going to extend it to after MegaCon. Next Sunday at the end of Roundtable is when you guys are not allowed to submit suggestions anymore. Then I will hand it off to somebody to choose it. Give us a week to do that, and then get it together. So We're going to have one more choice. Jed's going to choose when we come back, Jed will do his regular choice. And then after that will be your chat choice for this quarter. Okay? That's how it's going to work. I bobbled it a little bit there, but I do the best I can.
Do we want to announce next time or wait?
Do you have one chosen? Mm-hmm. Oh, go for it. Yeah, go for it.
All right. Well, since everyone's blaming me for not liking cheese, I'm going to do a cheesy ass movie that I don't think you've ever seen and see how well it works for you.
Okay.
This is a film that I grew up with. I have a lot of nostalgia for, so I'm going to praise it when it doesn't deserve praise.
Okay.
Right? I 100% realize this movie is dumb as all hell, but I love it. It is a film starring Steven Spielberg's ex-wife, star of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Okay.
It is in the 90s, I believe, and there's not really anyone else in it. It is
really
the classic, I'll say, classic in my household, Space Camp.
I've seen Space Camp way back in the day.
Space Camp.
Wait, that's from the 80s, dude. That's a 90s.
Is it that old?
80s.
I knew it was old.
I thought you were going to go Dreamscape for a second there.
I've never seen that.
That's with Dennis Quaid. That's a weird one. Oh, I've seen Space Camp way back in the day. It's been decades since
I don't know why I love Space Camp. It's not a good movie, but it's fun.
Yeah, it was one of those movies that you kind of always wanted to see, and then you saw it and you're disappointed. So I was. I remember when I finally saw it, I was disappointed. So, but yeah, I've seen Space Camp long time ago, though. Long.
Do you remember much of it? Because it's not good.
I remember nothing. I mean, we're talking. I was single digits when I saw this movie, and I think I maybe saw it one other time on TV. It's
a cheesy movie. I mean, just the premise alone has got us put in the chat. Some kids accidentally get launched into space.
They're in space, it's an 80s who's who of side characters and supporting cast from movies that would go on for decades.
The mom in Back to the Future is in it as well.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, Leah Thompson. Yeah, there's a lot of people who were standards in 80s movies that were young and in that movie. So Space Camp let's make sure we got the date up here. Oh, it's
the 15th.
Yeah, 15th. So we'll be back on the 15th. For next Saturday, I will probably I'll start streaming video games early with Dermy since he's not going to MegaCon either. And whoever else hasn't gone to MegaCon. So we'll probably just start streaming early that night. Gaming.
Tom Skerritt and Joaquin Phoenix are in it?
Yeah. Yep.
This tells you how much I know about this movie.
Yeah, it's got an actual cast.
That is a real cast. I only remember Spielberg's wife because I think it's funny.
Yeah. And so, there you go. And reminder one more time. So click the link at the top of the chat or go to my community tab on the main page, Renaissance Nerd, and you can just put your suggestion in the comment section of that post. And you've got another week. Check who's put it up there. You only get one per quarter. So one suggestion. The rules are there if you haven't read it yet. And I saw some new faces here tonight. So welcome. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We will be back next time. But tomorrow, remember, there's still more streams to come. So we'll see you guys tomorrow with more stuff. I will be, as usual, Saturday night. I'll be over on Dermy Wormy's channel for Saturday playing games tonight. Probably some Dark Tide. I will not be streaming my perspective, though, because I do not stream Saturday anymore. Those who were there know exactly why.
Paul.
Listen, you know exactly why if you were there. We don't do that anymore because I have no control over that stupidity there. Anyway, so good night, everybody. Have a safe weekend. We'll see you next time. Until then, take it easy, everybody.